Welcome to Rise to Lead, the podcast where heart-driven leaders come together to inspire and innovate. They will share actionable tips and insights that help you lead your team more successfully, advance your career or business as a leader, achieve greater impact, and experience deeper fulfillment. I'm your host, Regina Huber, guiding you through deep conversations about leadership that's rooted in service, freedom, and the desire to leave a positive mark on the world. Are you ready to create real change in your leadership, your career, your life? Join me for a complimentary Lead and Thrive session, a 60-minute one-on-one strategy session where we will discuss your specific needs and map out the next steps to lead yourself and others powerfully. Spots are limited, so don't wait. Visit transformyourperformance.com/Lead Thrive session to book your Lead and Thrive session today. Let's work together to make it happen. Welcome to Rise to Lead podcast. Tabatha Jones is my guest today. Welcome, Tabatha, and it's so great to have you on.
Thank you for having me here. I can't wait to dive into our interview today.
Yes, thanks for coming on. And just remind me real quick, am I pronouncing your name correctly?
You are.
I thought so, because we have met before, but not very often. I just really wanted to make sure. Okay, thanks for confirming that. So let me quickly introduce you to our appreciated listeners. Tabatha Jones is the CEO of Empowered Leadership Coaching, a career advancement and leadership coach and author. With 20 plus years of leadership experience. Wow. She took the leap from corporate America into coaching at the age of 50, where she now helps ambitious women break through career barriers, build unshakable confidence, and secure promotions faster. Her clients achieve leadership success by developing strategic career plans, elevating their visibility and positioning themselves as top candidates for advancement. She specializes in working with Gen X women who are done playing small and want to make the next years the best of their career. Sounds wonderful. Let's dive right into this. So Tabatha, share with us why you decided to coach Gen X women specifically and what got you to this decision, and what's your path look like so far and with this work?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so let's start with kind of the why Gen X women. So as a Gen X woman, I understand really that we have some different ways of being in the world. We were raised a little differently. We hang on to some of that generational conditioning that keeps us sometimes playing small, right? Keep your heads down, keep your lips closed, work hard, and somebody will notice and promote you. And the reality is that doesn't really work. And as I was building my own career, I learned a lot of really great strategies that I was able to put together into a really solid framework and start helping my coworkers, my family, and my friends. And I just realized I loved it so much. Oh my gosh. And I thought, why not bring a voice to these women? Why not help them understand? Like, we're at the best season of our lives. We can do whatever we want. We've got so much experience, yet we beat ourselves up when something doesn't work out or we don't get that promotion the first time. So I'm like, why not come in and just help change that story? So what kind of led me to leaving was I worked in the telecom industry. I had been leading tech teams and was loving my job, but also really just feeling that pull to get out and do something more. We went through a reorg right at the start of 2020, which we know what 2020 led to. It got to be really interesting. I just realized I just wasn't loving my job anymore. And I said, well, you know what? This is the best season of my life. Why am I doing this? So I took the hop and here we are, just loving it.
Okay, great. Yes, thank you so much. You talk a lot about SMART goals, right? So while many of our listeners are certainly familiar with this framework, let's remind ourselves of what these SMART goals consist of and how we can use them at first so that we move a little bit more into this topic.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are all very familiar with SMART goals. We set them for business, we set them for our employees, we set them for our teams.
Right.
SMART goals are all around us all the time. Where we stumble a bit is we often forget to set SMART goals for our career. And what I hear a lot is, well, I want to be promoted to director. Like, director of what? By when? Like, how are you going to get there? Getting really smart when you're setting your career goals helps you prioritize them. It helps you set that time on your calendar to where you're actually working on your goals, not just constantly pushing it back to the back burner because it's not as smart. It's not as time bound, right? And just to kind of go back through SMART, specific, measurable, achievable, results focused, and timeline driven.
Mhm.
So when I talk to someone who tells me I want to be promoted to director, we'll hit the pause button. Okay, you want to be promoted to director of what? I want to be promoted to director of engineering. Great. When do you want to be promoted to director of engineering? I want to be promoted to director of engineering by the end of 2025. Okay. Now I've got some clarity. Now we can start building in the steps that you need to achieve that. You can build them into your calendar and you can start taking that strategic action and then measure your progress so that you know where you need to make some adjustments. The the interesting thing here is I'll hear, well, I don't really know if that position's going to post by this time. That doesn't matter. You need to be ready for that position before it posts. And that's one of the biggest missteps I see with women when it comes to promotions, promotion readiness is we'll be so hard working in our job day to day, heads down, doing all the things. When the position posts, we're suddenly scrambling to start showing up as promotion ready and start showing that we've got our resume and we're ready to interview and all these things, where it's much easier to start now and demonstrate that you're ready for that promotion before it ever posts, really standing out as that obvious candidate. But SMART goals are a big part of that.
Okay. So then when so how do you have like a specific approach that you use for SMART goals? Is there anything that is special in the way you approach them, or what would you say about your unique approach?
With my unique approach is setting them for your career. I
Hmm.
have spoken to hundreds of women, and when I ask, what is your SMART career goal? I get the deer in the headlights kind of face, like, I don't really set a SMART career goal.
Right.
And I would say that is the only unique level of it. A SMART goal is a SMART goal,
Hmm.
but we forget to set them for our own career goals.
Right.
For me, every year I sit down, I set my SMART goals. I set them for my business. I set personal, I set relationship, I set health so that they're all laid out. So it's smart. And I lay out my what, when, whys so that it's very clear. Then I pop all these dates onto my calendar to make sure, right? Whether it's, we'll pick a health goal because I've been kind of slacking on that, right? So the health goal, all right, change gym membership to a different location, do whatever it is to set myself up for success, grocery shopping and meal prepping on Sundays, getting things really clear so they're a priority. If I just say, oh, I want to lose 10 pounds, I'm not going to really take any action. The same applies to your career goal. If you don't get really specific and clear, you're not going to start working on it until it may be a little bit too late.
Yeah. So another thing that I observe a lot with employees is that they don't have a written vision. So that is sort of similar, right? Most entrepreneurs have a written vision because we know we need one. And oftentimes when
Exactly.
clients come to work with me and they are employees, they do not necessarily have a written vision. And
Mhm.
that's always one of the first tasks that or assignments that I give my clients, because if we don't know where we're going, how should we get there? it's going to be
Exactly.
impossible to find the path, right? Because we don't even know in which direction to head off. So yes, totally makes sense to me.
I love that.
So
And
go ahead.
sorry, I was going to tap on that vision
Oh,
just a little bit. I mean, there's so much more power when you can get behind your vision and understand your why and articulate it. It's so much more powerful. So I love that you're doing that with your clients.
yeah, absolutely. The why is also very important. It's the what and the why.
Yeah,
And
so
once we're
important.
clear on those, everything seems a little bit more obvious, right? It
Right.
just becomes, because a lot of people have problems gaining clarity and figuring out what they really want. And that's what the vision writing helps with too. Would you agree? Because then we actually go through the exercise of articulating what we really want to achieve. And of course, we couldn't have any goals if we didn't have a vision. That wouldn't make much sense.
That's absolutely correct. And so interesting. I just met with a friend of mine the other day. I had been writing down my vision for the year, actually for the next 3 years, and pulling in a few new pieces of things that I want to add in. And, we sat down, we talked about it, and then went on to the goals. So you're absolutely right. That's your foundation.
Yes. Yes, a lot of people think the goals come first, but they are like the milestones stones within a vision, aren't
Mhm.
they? Because again, how would I set goals if I don't have a vision and if I don't know where I really want to go? Um,
Yeah.
so, can you share an example of a small but a brave action someone took that led to significant results, especially somebody who was hesitant to take bold action, but they followed your advice of defining their SMART goals, and then through this found the courage to step outside of what we usually call their comfort zone.
Oh my gosh, I have two examples. So I'm going to go one from a
Great.
promotion side and one from an entrepreneurial side. So from a promotion side, a client of mine who was playing really small, staying, head down, very task focused. She was a leader, but not really acting like that leader. Also fairly introverted and quiet. And the small action step for her that was extremely brave and uncomfortable was scheduling a meeting with a senior leader at her company to have it was really a wonderful informational interview, which led to her stepping outside of her comfort zone, but getting to know this person, building a relationship. He ended up being one of her strongest champions at promotion time. He was the one that was cheering her on. He was the one that was telling other people, well, I think you need to talk to her. And he would connect her with the person so she could get out there. And the best part was she came to me as we met weekly, but probably about a month and a half in. And she said, oh my gosh, I get everything you're saying, and I've completely outgrown my job. I'm ready for what's next. So she was promoted within the next 6 months. The company went through a little bit of a reorg. She missed the first opportunity, but the next opportunity she was promoted, which we're still celebrating. From an entrepreneurial side, that small, brave action step was getting her vision straight, getting that SMART goal written down. And she had been with her company for just about 30 years and had been offered an early retirement plan and was really just kind of on the fence, like, what do I do? What do I do? And I said, well, you told me what your dream is. What do you do? How do we get there? She did. She started that small step was, how do I do it? What do my finances look like? Scheduling a call with that financial advisor, getting those little baby steps. And she took the leap December 3rd and is now running her business full time, which I've been helping her and kind of coaching along the side. So sometimes it's just one conversation. Sometimes it is that one step forward, the talk with the career advisor, sorry, the financial advisor, or making the jump, taking that one big step that gets you into that next phase of life and excitement.
Yeah, that's beautiful to hear. Two amazing stories, and you had a pivotal role in them, it seems. So that's the beauty of being a coach, isn't it?
Oh my gosh, that's the best part, right? You get to celebrate. And I feel like I celebrate people's wins all the time because there's so much good stuff. And,
Mhm.
it doesn't have to be huge. It can be so small, stepped out of your comfort zone and went and met new people. I have another client that also was kind of staying behind the scenes. And I said, hey, I got invited to this networking event. Why don't you join me? She joined me, and now she's all up in that networking group and actually seeking her next role, and has so many contacts giving her leads and connecting her with new people. So just one little thing builds so much momentum.
That is so true. That is so true. So I want to talk about another topic that is visibility. It's a big topic for women specifically, I find, although also for some men, of course, including some that I've worked with. So, what would you say are some practical, specific ways someone can increase their visibility within an organization, especially if they're not in a high profile position? And I'm really looking here, Tabitha, I'm looking for ways that we may not always talk about or hear about. If you have any of those secrets to share with us.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to touch on it a little bit before I go into the specifics and just kind of share what I see is, and that's that we will prioritize everything else and forget about the importance of visibility and that networking aspect of things. A few years ago, I'm trying to think, 2022, I think, there was a golf tournament. And it was a women's golf tournament put on by the women in, it was a women in tech kind of event. And golf, right? I'm not a golfer. I had zero interest in chasing a little white ball around a golf course. But I thought, you know what? I'm going to sponsor it and I'm going to show up and I'm going to play golf and I'm going to make some great connections. So in advance of that, I had reached out to a few of my female former colleagues and friends and said, hey, are you going to be at this event? I can't wait. I'm sponsoring it and I'd love to see you. And most of them said, yes, I'll be there. Can't wait to see you. It's going to be so fun. So we get there, and imagine my surprise when the majority of participants were men. I would say 85-ish%, which, all right, golf, I get it, maybe. But as I started reaching out to my friends and former colleagues, I said, what happened? And almost every single one of them, there was some variation of my boss put a meeting on my calendar or so and so needed something. And I said, well, that's really interesting because all of these men made it here, and I can't imagine that none of them had that happen to them. So, what we will do is we will put everyone else's needs and requests ahead of our own, and it leads to missing out on some great visibility opportunities. So, as we talk about different ways to show up, I want everyone, your listeners, to really think about the fact that you are a priority and you are in control of your calendar most of the time. Most things are not fire drills. So, a couple of great ways to show up and be more visible. One is think outside of your immediate team. Your boss sees you every day, your team sees you every day. How can you get in front of people outside of your team? That can look like getting involved in a special project. It can be reaching out to a leader of another team. So I was in information services. I could reach out to the leader of the marketing team and say, hey, I know you have a team meeting coming up. Is there room for me to come in and talk about something that I'm working on that impacts your team? Be specific. Don't say something. I'm just saying something because I'm making it up. But get yourself on that agenda, get in that room, get in front of those other leaders and team members, because that's how you silently become the go-to and people start saying your name and speaking about you in really great ways. You can get on their meeting agendas. You can get involved in a special project or ask, hey, can I come do a side-by-side with your team? I'm really interested in transitioning into this team. We'll say marketing again, just for fun, into marketing. Would you mind if I schedule a side-by-side with one of your employees so I can learn more about the projects you're working on and maybe I can learn some things and add some value? Getting outside of your normal team is really important. There are the less or the more obvious things like attending networking events. Most companies have employee resource groups. They have, oh my gosh, so many different things, volunteer opportunities. Get in those rooms, get them on your calendar and make them a priority. Take on a board member role if you can. There are so many great ways to get in and highlight your talent and your leadership abilities, but they're not all comfortable, right? They're not all with people you know. There's a little bit of stranger danger involved sometimes. You're going to get out there and, start talking to people you've never interacted with before. But that's how you start building your brand and how you start getting more visible and making sure your name's coming up where it needs to.
Yeah, I love that. Uh, I was also thinking when you said, well, they had all the different reasons for not showing up at the golf tournament. And yes, it's putting other people first and other people's needs first. But the question is, why are we doing this? Why are women more typically doing this? And I have my own theories, but what do you think?
I'd say it's a lot of conditioning, right? We're always everything to everyone. Every time somebody needs something, they call mom or they call their sister or they lean on the senior woman who has, more experience and has the answer. And I'd say we have a habit of just dropping everything to take care of it, get it done, and then get back to what we're working on. The problem is we don't get back to ourselves often enough. And it shows when we look at promotion rates of men versus compared to women.
Yeah.
What
So
are what's your thought on
sorry,
that?
go ahead. Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
going to ask what's your thought?
I totally agree with you, Tabitha. And then I think there's also oftentimes the subconscious fear of, oh, what happens if I don't do it? Or this, and I'm not saying always, but it does happen, and oftentimes we are not aware of it enough, and that's why I'm bringing this up. Really
Yeah,
ask yourselves, what's the underlying fear or concern, or am I people pleasing here? you know,
so much.
really become self-aware so that you can change what you want to change in this respect, right? So do you want to be at that event? It's up to you to change it. It's not up to anybody else. And that oftentimes starts with deep self-awareness, because otherwise we just fall into the same habit again. Sometimes we don't have time to, you know, gain that self-awareness in the moment, or to think about it a lot. Somebody asks us something, and they expect an answer right away. So be prepared, right? Know yourself, really go deep with the self-discovery, and be honest with yourself. What was the real reason you did not show up at that event? Because it's not somebody else. It is not. It's
It's-
something inside of you.
exactly. Oh my gosh, that's so true. And it's everything isn't a fire drill. And part of leadership is managing your time, managing your calendar, managing your energy. And it is okay to say, I have another commitment at this time. Can we meet at 3 o'clock instead? Or
Mhm.
I have another obligation at this time. Can I send a delegate in my space or in my place, or would you like to reschedule? And it gets easier as we practice, but that people pleasing and trying to be everything and, oh my gosh, what if I don't give the answer right now? That does come into play a lot. And we need to sometimes just pause, take a beat and say, okay, wait, what is the priority? Is it showing up at this golf event and really getting into the networking and building my brand and meeting new people? Or is it taking care of this thing that could be done any other day this week because it's not urgent? It's okay to ask. I mean, it was really I go back to golf just because I'm not a golfer. It's not my thing. But at that event, I made so many new relationships. I learned about hiring events. I heard people saying, "Do you know anyone who would fit this role?" It was such a wasted opportunity for a meeting that could have taken place 2 days later.
Yeah, and I want to pick up on two things here. First of all, it's sometimes really beneficial to move out of your usual circles.
Very.
because you meet different people, you will be encountering different perspectives, new ideas. You People know people too, so you will not only widen your community with the people who are present at the event, but also their connections, right? So don't just always go to the same places. Or I see that so often also with entrepreneurs who go to, like, coaches go to coach groups. Yes, that's nice, but but
Yeah.
maybe it's a good idea to visit some other circles. Like, for example, I was a member, a very active member of the Financial Women's Association for a long time, actually, of their leadership team. I have nothing to do with financial services, except that I
Hey.
have had a lot of clients in that industry, also because of that.
Mm.
So, yes, really move out of your usual communities or circles, networking circles, so that you can meet different people that you might not even think might be a great fit for you as clients, but they might be, or just a bridge for another connection, right? That's also what networking is really about, being a bridge for each other. And another thing that I wanted to pick up, and I'm so glad you said priorities, because I always say you cannot manage time, but you can only manage priorities. But it's
Yeah.
also about making yourself a priority.
Mhm.
We oftentimes forget about this, or we think it's not okay to do it. But it is absolutely okay to be selfish.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
Oh my
healthy.
gosh. Yeah, you have to be. If you're not selfish at all, ever, you're never going to get what you want. You're never going to be happy because you're never taking care of yourself. It's so
Exactly.
important.
And so many people think selfish is something bad, and it's but selfish and being of service to others are not mutually exclusive. It's very important to remember that. It's actually, you cannot be of service to others in the long run and sustainably if you are not selfish. That at least is my perspective. What would you say to that, Tabitha?
Oh my gosh, I absolutely agree. And we have to protect our time so that we can focus on ourselves and be a little selfish. Because at the end of the day, if I'm not taking care of myself, nobody else is going to do it for me. If I'm not focused on building my career, no one else can do it for me. If I'm not focused on building my business, no one else can do it for me. So
Yeah.
you have to, and it's okay to make yourself a priority. If you don't, you're going to feel the effects really quickly. I know early on in the entrepreneurial, I still can't say it, journey for myself, it just felt like I had to go, 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 be always on, figuring out things, doing all of the actions and activities. And I've stopped at one point and I said, what is going on? I was so tired and kind of frustrated and burning out. And I thought, oh my gosh, I did this early on in my career. What am I doing? I know that I need to set time on my calendar for myself. I know I need to take time for the things I enjoy doing. And the same applies to your work calendar. You are a leader, you know what's important. Just because you're invited to a meeting doesn't mean you have to attend it. I have seen calendars. I'll ask, calendar management is big for me, same with as priorities, right? Because I will ask, well, how are you doing with calendar management? And I just say it exactly that way. And the usual answer is, oh, I get everything done on time every day. I work from like 6 in the morning till 6 at night and blah, 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 right? Just get it in there. And I'm, that's not really what I'm talking about. That's time management. That's hitting all your deadlines. That's great. Calendar management is, when are you setting time for yourself to focus on your own goals? When are you setting time for yourself to reflect? When are you creating time for self-care? When are you taking time for leadership or learning development or coaching? When do you think? When is your think time on your calendar?
Right.
And I usually will see those light bulbs start clicking. And I actually had one client say, I never thought about giving myself time to think. And I thought, wow, okay, let's start there. And I actually met with her boss on a regular cadence. And one of the first things he said is, she seems so much more confident what's going on. I said, oh, let me tell you about her calendar. So he said, I never even thought about that. I said, I know some people do it intuitively, but for most women, we don't. We have to set time blocks and we have to hold them pretty strictly.
Yeah. I want to go back to a few things you said. Yes. So you said you, we, we must lead our own careers, because otherwise, in that case, I actually sometimes like to say, otherwise, you get the career that somebody else wants for you, not the
There's
one
that.
you want. You might, somebody else might actually be managing and leading your career, but maybe not in your preferred way, right? Maybe not in the way that you would really like to see it. So, yes, it's absolutely your own responsibility, just as our lives are our responsibility, right? So that's one thing. And then, yes, everything that you touched on today is about self-leadership. So this podcast is about leadership of others and self-leadership, right? So really, let's not forget that self-leadership is the most important piece, or the basis really, for any leadership of other people. So if you want to be a leader, or you are in a leader role, for what comes first is always self-leadership. And that also includes the self-awareness that we talked about earlier, right? I also wrote down something else here in my list that I heard you say, Tabatha. And you said, oh, she finally got time to think,
Mhm.
right? Or she never made time to think, right?
Right.
What about time to not think?
Mhm.
Do we
Absolutely.
ever give ourselves time to not think? Because
Yeah.
yes, I know what you mean, of course, and it makes sense. Time to
Of
reflect,
course.
time to be creative, all these different
Yeah.
beautiful ways of thinking, of using our brains and our minds, our conscious minds. But then, do we ever give ourselves time to not think and to just become present? And as in meditation, but not necessarily. I think that's another item that I wanted to add to people's list if they want to take good care of themselves in their
Oh
calendar
my gosh.
management.
Yeah, I love that. The time to not think is hard for me. So I can imagine, just when okay, we're going to have true confessions. I took Candy Crush off of my devices this year. That was my thing. I was like, I'm
I'm
taking it
not
off.
at risk. I don't like the games,
Ugh.
so I'm not at risk.
Oh my gosh. I know, because I was thinking this is my not think time. It's my downtime. But the reality is you're extra thinking and your brain is firing off all over the place. And I have found that just doing that one simple thing has made me be more present and more in the conversation, or in the space where I can dream a little bit. So to me, thinking and dreaming are a bit different, but the dreaming is what could be. What's the next thing? I don't even know if it's that. It's kind of dreaming and feeling, I guess, is the way to say that a little better. But I love that. And actually, I'm going to add that to my list because I don't have that on my calendar. It just kind of happens. The other thing you said to touch on is the self leadership and the team leadership. When you're leading yourself and setting that example, your team feels it and your team starts to change and you feel that shift. That's one thing that I worked really hard to teach my former peers, my former leader, is when you demonstrate that you are always on, you are always in a meeting, you are always working, even when you're on vacation, you set that tone for your entire team. People don't feel like they can disconnect. People don't feel like they can decline a meeting. You end up burning your team out by your own actions. So, kind of back to your point, because you said it so eloquently, it's about team leadership. we do have to start with self-leadership and making some simple adjustments so that you can be that stronger leader for yourself and also for your team. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I love
I
that.
sometimes like to say also, there are no thriving teams without a thriving leader.
Yeah.
You really, really want to set that example. And because it's like giving them permission to act in a similar way, right? So I actually wanted to touch on one more item that we have not touched on yet, and it is about everyone's uniqueness and their unique path. How do you help your clients bring out their uniqueness in their careers?
That's a fun one. And especially for midlife women, because we have so much experience. We've had so many accomplishments. We have so many skills. I like to look at one, what we like to do. What do you enjoy doing? Kind of start putting that picture together.
Mhm.
And I have every single client write down a list of 50 things she's most proud of because a lot of our uniqueness is hidden in there. The interesting thing with this exercise is normally I'll get 10 to 15 things on the list when we first meet. So this is pre-work to the program, come to your first meeting, I want 50 things. It tells me what you're proud of, but it also gives me that bigger picture of things that light you up, things that are important to you. Most women get to 15 to 20 items on their list, and most of those things are kind of work related. They're, really structured in that thinking. And so once we start talking and I start giving more examples and asking questions, we start finding out, oh, I took care of my mom through her cancer battle, or oh, I volunteer and I deliver food to people in my community. I've adopted a cat, I've rescued a dog. All of the things that make you that whole person and make you really unique, those are the things I like to start talking about and finding out, because there is some great information that my clients will share with me that say, this is what makes you very unique compared to your coworkers. This is where your strength comes from. Personally, from my career, the thing that made me unique as a technical team leader is that I came from a customer care background. I've always been very empathetic and a listener, and I'm kind of a natural born leader. I say, as the oldest of four, I think it had to happen. But my ability to see situations and solutions from the perspective of the client, of the end user, of our technical teams, of our people in the field, and to the overall business meant that I could make decisions really quickly and very holistically. Not everyone could do that. And when it came to interview time or promotion time, I could bring that forward and share great examples of how I was able to do that. Every single person has that ability, but doesn't always recognize it, or they don't always understand how, you and your coworker do the same job. How do you do certain things better? How do some of your experiences and your accomplishments lead to you being able to stand out and demonstrate that you're ready for what's next? It's an exercise that anyone can do. And I really challenge those who are listening. I challenge you to grab a piece of paper and start writing down, what are 50 things you're most proud of? What are your top accomplishments? And start looking at that, start getting an idea of your top skills, and then identify how that makes you stand out. How does that make you even more of an asset than you already thought you were? It's it's going to be pretty eye-opening.
Yeah, lists are always great. I have my clients make many lists.
I love lists.
It's really a great exercise and fun exercise to make lists and then work with those lists. And this is one of them, one example, right, that you just gave us. Thanks for that. So talking about uniqueness, let me quickly also remind our listeners about my new book, Living My Freaking Amazing Life, Create the Life That's Perfect for You Anywhere in the World. It's all about really living that uniqueness. And this book is a somewhat different leadership book. It's a leadership book that honors your uniqueness, your unique life, and your unique leadership style. And I wrote it to help people thrive as the leaders of themselves and their teams. And you can get it on Amazon as Kindle or paperback. I do hope you find some inspiration for you to live your life on your terms as a leader of yourself, of your life, and potentially of other people. But back to you, Tabatha. This has been a great conversation. Thanks so much, first of all, for
Thank
sharing your
you.
wisdom.
Yeah. Thank
Where
you.
can people find you, and where can people find more information about you?
Oh my gosh. So the easiest way to find me is on LinkedIn. I'm Tabatha with all A's. I'd love for you to connect or follow me. Definitely sharing some great tips and action strategies out there.
Mhm.
I have a website. It's just easiest to get everything from LinkedIn, and we can link anything in the show notes. And then I also have a book out. It's promotion ready in 3 months, and it is jam packed full of the top strategies and action steps you can take to start getting promotion ready so that you stand out as that obvious candidate at promotion time. And I absolutely just look forward to hearing from anyone who took some great value from this conversation and was able to implement and make a difference in their careers or lives.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much. There's no better way of closing this conversation. So thank you for that. Thanks so much for tuning in today to everyone. I hope you found some valuable takeaways. If you enjoyed the conversation, as always, don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a review. And I'll catch you next time with more insights to help you lead your life and your career on your own terms, or your business, of course. Take care, and I'll catch you soon. Thank you for tuning in to Rise to Lead. Keep shining your light, standing up for what's right, and inspiring others to step into their brilliance. If you like this episode, please give it a 5-star rating and subscribe to the Rise to Lead podcast on your preferred podcast app. Until next time, it's Regina Huber, and in the meantime, remember to rise to lead.